Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I ask you not to hear me with your ears, but with the quiet certainty of your spirit. For what I shall share is not common speech, but a revelation whispered into the soul from a higher realm. Let us begin with a simple truth. You walk not with feet, but with intention. What you call your footsteps are more than bones and flesh. They are declarations to the invisible. Your path is not just where you go, it is who you become. The feet, in the realm of the unseen, are more than a means of physical movement. They are emblems of dominion, silent yet powerful symbols of authority and possession. When ancient texts speak of placing one's foot upon a land, they are not merely referencing geographical conquest. They are revealing a deeper truth. To place your foot somewhere is to claim it, spiritually and energetically. It is a declaration of presence, of ownership, of influence. They mark this. Your feet tell the universe where you stand, not only in location, but in belief, in identity, in destiny. They bear the weight of your being. They carry your consciousness into the material world. Each step is a statement, an imprint of your intent, whether that intent is known to you or not. When you move, when you journey, whether in body or mind, you are planting seeds in the field of life. Where your feet rest, your authority either rises or is forfeit. This is why, in the dark arts, witches are more interested in where you walk than what you say, because if they can influence your footing, spiritually or symbolically, they can redirect your dominion, they can move you off your course, they can deceive your path. The power is not in chasing you down, it is in manipulating where you choose to step. For where you walk reveals what you accept, what you tolerate, and what you unknowingly allow into your field of power. To walk unconsciously is to give your dominion away. To tread in realms you do not discern is to say, I give permission, even if your lips remain silent. And so the feet, these humble servants, are transformed into instruments of warfare, not because of their form, but because of the spiritual meaning they carry. To understand this is to understand how crucial it is to walk with awareness, with intention, with the knowledge that every place you set your foot is either a throne or a trap. The feet are often overlooked in the spiritual anatomy of the human being, yet they serve as potent access points, gateways between the physical and the invisible. They are the first to touch the earth, the carriers of your weight, and the translators of your direction. In the spiritual dimension, your feet are not simply limbs, they are portals. They absorb energy, respond to frequency, and register the essence of the ground you stand upon. The ground is not neutral. Every space has a voice, a memory, a vibration, and your feet are listening. When witches or spiritual manipulators seek access to a soul, they often look for the open door, the point of least resistance, and the feet, being closest to the earth and constantly in contact with external environments, become easy entry points, especially for those who walk without awareness. I think one can enter a space and unknowingly come under its influence just by standing in it, just by walking through it. The energy of a cursed place, a bitter home, or a defiled land can cling to the feet like dust, and that dust can follow you, clouding your path and slowing your spirit. Every atmosphere carries a spiritual signature. Some are light and liberating, others are heavy, hostile, and laced with manipulation. When you walk into a place without discernment, your feet can be spiritually marked, much like stepping into a dye that stains. These invisible stains affect how you think, how you feel, and the directions you are drawn toward. You begin to make choices that feel like yours but are not. You begin to desire what you never hungered for before, all because you walked in and something walked in with you. The attack then is subtle. It is not always a confrontation. It is an infiltration. It is not about causing pain, but about altering trajectory. The path you were meant to walk begins to blur because your feet, those access points, have been spiritually interfered with. The manipulators know that if they can influence your base, they can destabilize your whole structure. If they can affect the foundation, everything else, thoughts, emotions, dreams, will shift under the pressure of misalignment. That is why those who move with intention do not just walk anywhere. They understand that their feet are not simply tools for locomotion. They are sensors, connectors, and receivers. And if you do not guard your gates, the enemy does not need to break in. He only needs you to step out. Witches do not need to chase you because their power lies not in pursuit but in preparation. They function more like architects than hunters, constructing spiritual environments designed to entrap the unaware. These are not always visible snares made of rope and chain. They are atmospheres, carefully crafted energetic conditions that you step into with your own will, thinking you are simply moving through life. But in truth, you are entering a spiritual theater, and the script has already been written without your knowledge. Many people believe spiritual attack must be dramatic, filled with chaos and confrontation, but the more effective assaults are quiet. They occur when you walk into spaces where your spirit is not welcome, yet your body feels no resistance. These are traps laid in plain sight, environments saturated with fear, envy, confusion, or seduction. The enemy does not need to reach for you when you will walk right into his domain, unaware that your surroundings have been constructed to bend your mind and weaken your resolve. The power of a witch is rarely in her presence. It is in her absence. Her work is done long before you arrive. She creates a space, whispers into it, assigns spirits to it, and steps away, waiting for you to walk in, for your feet to carry you into what feels natural but is actually strategic. These environments might take the form of toxic relationships, unguarded conversations, or invitations dressed as opportunities. But once your feet cross the threshold, your discernment dulls, your clarity blurs, and you begin to agree with what you would have once resisted. This is why some places drain you without explanation, why you can enter a room and suddenly feel anxious, heavy, or confused. Your body walks into what looks like a space, but your spirit walks into an ambush. The enemy does not have to overpower you if he can simply outmaneuver you. And the most dangerous part? You'll often think it was your idea, your choice, your movement. They set the trap, but you bring yourself to it. That is the cunning of it all. The witches do not force, they allure. They do not pull you in. They open the door and leave it just wide enough for curiosity and assumption to do the rest. And your feet, the vessels of your direction, become the very instruments that carry you into confinement, disguised as freedom. Every step you take leaves behind more than a physical indentation. It leaves a spiritual echo, an energetic signature that reveals where you've been, what you've carried, and who you believed yourself to be in that moment. Just as footprints in the sand speak of your direction in the physical, your spiritual footprints speak of your intention, your vibration, your dominion. The spirit world is not blind to these prints. It reads them, traces them, and, if it chooses, uses them. Witches and spiritual manipulators are often attuned to these subtle traces. They are not only concerned with who you are now, but where you've walked, because your journey says much about your authority, your weaknesses, your spiritual frequency. Just as a tracker in the wilderness follows footsteps to find the prey, so too do dark forces observe your energetic trail to map your life. They know if your steps have been grounded in purpose or scattered in confusion. They know if your walk carries the weight of conviction or the hesitation of fear. These footprints can be replicated, manipulated, or reversed. Just as in the natural world someone could retrace your steps to find their way into your dwelling, so too in the spiritual realm, footprints act as open paths. If not guarded by awareness, if not covered by intention and spiritual authority, your prints can become access routes, trails that others use to influence, mimic, or distort your journey. A witch may not even need to touch you directly. If she can step where you stepped, think what you thought, or feel what you felt in your moments of doubt, she can begin to project distortions into your future path. That is why you sometimes feel as though you're going in circles, revisiting the same battles, meeting different people with the same wounded patterns, or encountering familiar confusion in new environments. It is often not a coincidence. It is a spiritual rerouting through your own footprints. Paths left open and unguarded can become traps recycled. The universe responds to where you walk. The energy of your journey speaks. And just as light can follow a trail of oil to ignite a flame, so too can darkness follow a trail of neglect and unconscious movement. To walk in awareness is not just a matter of safety. It is a matter of spiritual hygiene. It is the practice of leaving behind not just footprints, but declarations, evidence that you walked with knowing, with light, and with authority that cannot be mimicked or stolen. In the spiritual realm, not all agreements are verbal or formal. Many are established through presence, action, and consent that is given unconsciously. When you walk into a cursed place or accept something seemingly harmless from a spiritually compromised source, you are not just receiving a physical object or entering a location. You are engaging with the energy behind it. Your feet, your hands, your body become the points of contact through which covenants are silently forged. Witches understand the principle of access and legal ground in the spirit. They know that influence must be permitted, even if that permission is unaware. So they design encounters, moments, or gifts that appear innocent on the surface, but are charged with spiritual intent. When you accept these things, an invitation, a meal, a piece of clothing, or even a compliment, you are in some cases unknowingly shaking hands with a curse. The transaction is spiritual, but the delivery is physical. This is why discernment is not optional, because many people walk into spiritual agreements daily without realizing it. They take the job that was never theirs, step into the home that drains them, or wear items that carry another person's spiritual imprint. These aren't just coincidences, they are covenants. Silent contracts signed by your unawareness. And the most dangerous contracts are the ones you never knew you agreed to. Once a covenant is made, influence begins. You may start to think differently, dream strangely, or feel weighed down in areas where you once had clarity and freedom. The change is subtle at first, but persistent. You may tell yourself it's just stress or emotion, but your spirit knows something foreign has taken root, and it often traces back to a moment where your feet led you somewhere your soul never should have entered, or your hands received something your heart did not test. Unconscious agreements are not easily broken because they are rarely acknowledged, and what is not acknowledged cannot be uprooted. The enemy thrives in your ignorance. What you don't know, he can use. What you don't question, he can twist. This is why vigilance must become your spiritual posture. Not fear, but awareness. Because while not every gift is a curse, and not every step is a snare, some are. And if your eyes are closed, Your feet may walk you into things your spirit will have to wrestle to escape. In the realm of dreams, the feet often reveal what the waking mind cannot articulate. When you find yourself in dreams where your legs are heavy, your steps slow, or you're running but going nowhere, these are not just psychological symbols, they are spiritual indicators. They speak of resistance, entanglement, and interference at the foundational level of your being. Dreams expose truths that are hidden in daylight. They are windows into the movements of your spirit. And when your feet are hindered in those dreams, it's often a sign that your path is being manipulated. Witches and spiritual attackers are well aware of the power of dreams. They know that if they can intercept you in that realm where your conscious defenses are lowered, they can tamper with your sense of progress, direction, and spiritual mobility. The dream world is not illusion. It is a dimension of communication, of revelation, and, unfortunately, of infiltration. When your feet do not function properly in a dream, it is rarely random. It signals that your spiritual walk is being monitored or restricted, often through invisible cords, burdens, or agreements. These are not mere feelings. They are the spiritual translation of bondage. You may wake up tired after such dreams, not because you didn't rest, but because your spirit was engaged in warfare, struggling to move, to break free, to remember its divine path. Some people dismiss these dreams, thinking they are the product of stress or a wandering mind, but the consistent appearance of immobility is often a red flag that something deeper is happening. There are cases where people consistently dream of walking in circles, climbing stairs that never end, or stepping into endless mud. These are not metaphors without meaning. They are signs of spiritual frustration, indicators that someone or something has laid obstacles in your path to prevent advancement. The enemy is not only after your blessings, he is after your movement. Because if he can stop your feet in the dream, he can begin to influence your decisions in the waking world. Confusion becomes your companion. Delay becomes your reality. Opportunities are missed, not because they weren't present, but because your spiritual footing was unsteady. This is why it is vital to take your dream seriously, especially when your feet are involved. You are being shown something that needs attention, not through fear, but through understanding. The dream is a message, a call to stand up within and reclaim your stride. For if the enemy can convince you that you are stuck, then even when the road is open, you will hesitate to walk. In the realm of the spirit, the concept of covering is crucial. Just as the body wears garments to protect it from the elements, so too does the soul require its own form of protection. The shoes you wear in the spirit, though unseen by natural eyes, are not merely decorative or symbolic. They represent your readiness, your alignment, and your ability to walk with authority in the terrain assigned to you. Witches and spiritual manipulators are acutely aware of this truth. They understand that if they can tamper with what covers your feet spiritually, they can affect where you go, how you get there, and whether you stand or fall when resistance comes. There are many who walk through life spiritually barefoot, uncovered, unguarded, unaware. They are open to the terrain of every atmosphere they enter, feeling everything, absorbing energies they do not discern, stepping on spiritual debris that wounds and weakens them. Just as walking without shoes in a thorn-covered path can cause injury, so walking without the right spiritual covering leaves the soul vulnerable to attack, delay, confusion, and emotional injury. The wrong shoes in the spirit do not just slow you, they mislead you. They may look beautiful, impressive, even powerful, but if they are not aligned with your divine assignment, they become burdens rather than blessings. The spiritual significance of shoes can also reflect identity. What you wear on your feet declares who you are prepared to be. In sacred texts, when someone stepped into a new calling or season, often the footwear was mentioned, sometimes removed in reverence, sometimes worn as a sign of readiness for battle or purpose. Your spiritual shoes carry the imprint of your preparation. If you are wearing what someone else wore, living by someone else's beliefs, walking in someone else's expectations, you are not walking your path, but theirs. And witches exploit this. They design spiritual footwear that seems attractive, promising ease, speed, or glory, but in truth it diverts you from your destiny. They offer shortcuts that become snares, blessings that are disguised bindings. Many who struggle with chronic indecision, repeated cycles of stagnation, or overwhelming spiritual fatigue are unknowingly wearing shoes that were not made for them. These coverings might be the result of words spoken over their lives, curses hidden in gifts, or compromises made in moments of fear or ambition. Once worn, these spiritual shoes begin to shape the road beneath them. They adjust the journey, sometimes leading you in circles, other times walking you away from your calling, while convincing you that you're heading straight toward it. It is not enough to walk. You must walk in what is truly yours. The covering on your feet must be truth, peace, authority, and identity rooted in divine origin. Anything less becomes an open invitation for manipulation. Because the adversary knows if your feet are not covered properly, every step you take is exposed. And once exposed, it can be redirected, not by force but by seduction, not by violence but by confusion dressed as comfort. In spiritual matters, distance is often an illusion. Witches and manipulators do not need to be in your presence to affect your path. They only need a point of contact. And among the most potent of these contact points are physical items, objects that touch your body, particularly your feet. Shoes, slippers, socks, even slow mats or rugs. These items, seemingly mundane, can become conduits through which spiritual manipulation is enacted. Because once something touches your feet, it interacts with your journey, your grounding, and your direction. Spiritual attack is often about legality, about finding the smallest window of access to plant an influence. A cursed item placed at your feet or worn by you is not just material. It's a spiritual petition. It says, let me walk with you. Let me guide your steps. Let me speak into where you're going. And if you accept that item without discernment, without spiritual awareness, then you've unknowingly agreed, not with words, but with action. You've invited something to walk your path with you. Witches understand the power of transfer. They know that items retain energy, intention, and imprint. A shoe that has been prayed over or cursed carries more than leather and thread. It carries a spiritual command. Once worn, it begins to whisper into your steps. You find yourself wandering when you used to be focused. You feel heavy where you used to be light. The path becomes blurred, and opportunities seem to close without explanation. It doesn't occur to you that the shift began not in the mind or heart, but at the feet. In some cultures and traditions, the feet are seen as the seat of spiritual dominion. They are the last defense against external control. That is why some witches will not try to curse your mind. They will aim for your feet. They know that if they can intercept your steps, they can detour your destiny. They may gift you something, leave something in your home, or even manipulate the floors you walk on. And if the item is charged with intention and you receive it passively, you have stepped into a contract. There are people today who carry burdens that didn't begin with a decision, but with a step taken while wearing something that was never meant for them, touching ground that had been claimed in darkness, and because the attack came through something as small as a shoe, they never thought to trace the root of their struggle to it, but the spiritual realm, does not operate by size or appearance. It operates by meaning, by energy, by agreement. This is why cleansing, prayer, and intentionality over the items that touch your body are not superstitions. They are spiritual hygiene. Because what touches your feet has the potential to guide your soul. And if it was placed there with the intention of manipulation, then it doesn't matter how strong your will is. Your path will slowly shift until you look up and wonder how you ended up so far from where you were meant to be. There is a sacred intelligence in the way you walk, not just physically but spiritually. The rhythm of your steps, the direction of your movement, the firmness of your stance. These all echo the state of your soul. Witches and spiritual manipulators observe not only what you do, but how you move, because your walk reveals your alignment. They know that every spiritual path emits a vibration, a frequency, and if they can distort the rhythm of your journey, they can interfere with your destiny without ever confronting you directly. Movement in the spirit is not just about activity, it's about alignment. When your walk is in rhythm with divine timing, doors open, clarity increases, and favor flows naturally. But when that rhythm is disturbed, whether by fear, confusion, shame, or external influence, you begin to misstep. And those missteps can lead you into detours, delays, and distractions that feel like your own choices, but are in fact spiritual manipulations designed to keep you from walking in the fullness of your power. To disrupt a person's walk is to destabilize their foundation. You may still be moving, but not progressing. You may still be active, but without purpose. This is a subtle but potent tactic used by witches and dark practitioners. They don't always try to stop you. They simply try to throw off your rhythm. And once your inner rhythm is out of sync, everything around you begins to feel disjointed. Relationships become strained. Opportunities seem to evade you. Peace becomes intermittent. You try harder, push further, but the ground beneath you no longer responds the way it once did. Spiritual imbalance often begins at the feet, not because your body is weak, but because your alignment has been tampered with. This can happen through exposure to toxic atmospheres, entanglements with people who carry counterfeit vibrations, or internal agreements you've made out of fear or desperation. Once that balance is broken, your spiritual equilibrium becomes vulnerable. You begin to overcompensate, walking faster when you should be still, or hesitating when you should advance. The confusion is not accidental. It is orchestrated. The rhythm of your walk is sacred. It is connected to timing, to intuition, to divine order. That rhythm carries the sound of your obedience, the tempo of your purpose, the heartbeat of your destiny. When witches seek to control a person, they listen for that rhythm and look for cracks in it. They do not need to attack your mind if they can corrupt your movement. If they can influence your spiritual gait, they can lead you down paths that look familiar but end in dead ends. They can cause you to circle around what you should have conquered and to hesitate before the very doors that were opened for you. Your spiritual rhythm must be guarded, not only through prayer and awareness, but through alignment with your original frequency, your divine identity. Because when you walk in your true rhythm, no force can hijack your path. But when that rhythm is surrendered through distraction, fear, or compromise, it becomes an opening for interference. And once your steps are no longer in sync with your source, your journey no longer reflects your design, but someone else's intention for your life. So now, having walked through the unseen paths where your feet have become the battleground, you must come to a choice. Either you continue stepping blindly, letting your path be dictated by forces you neither see nor question, or you rise in the awareness that every step you take is a declaration of destiny. Your feet are not simply instruments of movement, They are messengers of purpose, carriers of covenant, and guardians of your divine direction. You were never meant to wander through life as prey, unknowingly led into snares disguised as roads. From this moment forward, you must reclaim your walk. You must cleanse what has touched your path, break what has bound your steps, and silence every voice that has spoken confusion into your journey. The enemy has studied your movement long enough. Now it is time that your steps begin to prophesy. Let each stride declare, I know who I am, I know where I am going, and I refuse to walk with what was never mine. You are not powerless. You are not lost. You are not cursed. But you must walk like you believe it. Because when your feet are aligned with divine truth, no witch, no curse, no shadow has permission to follow. So walk boldly, wisely, and with the fire of awareness under your heels. Let your path speak louder than any spell ever could